Welcome to the Fertility Mind podcast. I am your host, Jessica Friesen, a certified fertility mindset coach, a sound healer, and an international best-selling author. My mission for this podcast is to give you weekly episodes where you hear my own success with IVF and how mindset and manifestation changed it all for me. You will also hear from my guests who share their success stories in the fertility world. I want you to know that you are not alone. Even when things feel tough and when things feel like they aren't going your way, the tools and techniques you will get in this podcast, I know can change everything for you too. So thanks for being here with me today, and let's dive in. Good morning and welcome back to another episode. I am really excited to share the space this morning with my guest, Maria Yakimchuk. She is a transformational EFT coach. And I am really excited. We had a really quick, brief conversation before I hit record, but it got me so excited and so inspired because our body holds on to every single emotional impact that we've experienced, big or small. So this conversation is going to be really exciting, and it also makes me want to send extra love to every single person right now that is going through infertility, that is on a fertility journey. Because our body is holding on to things, and this is a tool that you can use to help allow your body to collapse time and release some of these traumas that can allow your body to be in more of an optimal state when you're getting ready for procedures or just vamping up for whatever it is that you're doing on your fertility journey. But either way, I'm sending you love. And without further ado, Maria, take it away.
Oh, hi, Jessica. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here and to share with your guests about EFT and about the coaching that I do and basically another tool for them to use on their healing journey.
Yeah. So can you explain what EFT is and then explain what it is that you do with it for our listeners, please?
Yeah, so EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and another name for it is tapping. And so maybe people have heard of tapping because they ran across it on YouTube. There is the Tapping Solutions, which is an app that's been around for, I think, for about a decade by the Ortner brothers, and they kind of brought tapping out into the open more so, even though tapping has been around for about 40 years or so. And what it is exactly what it sounds like. You're tapping on about 20 acupressure points that are mainly around your head and upper body, and then also some finger points. And those points, those acupressure points, are directly on your autonomic nervous system. And that's where sort of the healing power of EFT comes in, is that it's a somatic therapy, which means we bring in the body into healing our emotional state. Because with all the new trauma research, with new research in general, we're finding out that if we don't bring the body into our mental health conversation, we might not be able to get the results that we need in terms of healing. Because while talking about our problems and discussing them is very important, and in terms of bringing it out into the open, it doesn't necessarily heal the trauma because our body sort of holds on to it. It is something that is beyond our sort of conscious and rational understanding. It's in our subconscious, it's in our reptilian brain. It's something that just reacts. So we can get rid of some of it by talking, but the rest of it is still sitting in our autonomic nervous system. And the reason why it's important is that our autonomic nervous system is responsible for keeping us alive and functioning properly. It is responsible for all the main bodily functions. And so when it's not functioning properly due to a trauma that we have experienced or due to chronic stress, all our other bodily functions can start being disrupted, and both our mental and physical health suffers. And EFT helps with the fact that we are directly accessing the nervous system by tapping on those acupressure points that we know correspond with a lot of our emotional centers, and that's why we use those 20 points. I mean, there's hundreds of acupressure points, but those specific ones are focused on our emotions, and that's why we use those in tapping. And it's a very simple procedure to learn. There is a sequence that you follow. There are specific words that you say and phrases, and you can do it as many times a day as you like, for as long as you like, until you're seeing movement. You can do it with a practitioner. You can do it by yourself. It is a wonderful, versatile healing tool that anybody can learn and anybody can do. And I have personally found it amazing, both personally and professionally for my clients.
That's incredible. So I like that you're saying like anyone can do it, because I can truly contest from myself and from my clients that are going through fertility treatments or going through infertility. Sometimes you're just overloaded with, grief, stress, like trying to get everything right, trying to manage everything. And sometimes the thought of adding one more thing can just seem instantaneously exhausting. So I like that you just mentioned like it's something easy that anyone can do, that you don't have to spend like hours researching or doing something, but you're accessing your nervous system, which I think is really incredible. So, can you explain, like, if you had a client with you that had recurrent miscarriages or had, is going through the stress of infertility and treatments and things like that, what can like tapping or EFT do for them?
Yeah, so EFT tapping, what it can do for them is help their nervous system to, in some ways, relax and start letting go of the grief. Because the truth is, the grief keeps us stuck. And it's normal for us to have grief because infertility and miscarriages, it is a traumatic and difficult event for somebody who's trying to get pregnant and wants to have a baby to go through this. It's incredibly stressful, it's incredibly difficult. And so with EFT, we can tackle multiple things. We can go into a specific event. So let's say if we're talking about a client with a miscarriage, we would go into the specific miscarriage event and work on that event to help clear out the grief, the guilt, the shame, any sort of feelings that are wrapped up in there, and release them out of the nervous system. It doesn't erase the memory, but it does take the emotional charge out of it so that the person can start functioning better. And their nervous system does treat it as, yes, it was a sad event, but I can move on with my life, which is something that a lot of us can't do when we are grieving. We end up being stuck in that grief and we can't move on with our life. In terms of the overall stress of infertility, EFT is a fantastic tool for stress management because you can do it multiple times a day. You don't need anything special because all you're using is your body and your hands. So all you need is kind of a quiet space to do it. And you can tap just on the general stress just to take the top off, or you can go into the more specific things that are making you really stressed and tap on that. And as I mentioned before, that it is a pretty easy tool to learn, and you could look at, YouTube and learn the sequence. I have freebies that show the sequence as well. My only caution is if you are working not just on stress management, but you are working on trauma events like a miscarriage, like grief, I would begin working with a practitioner before you start doing it on your own. Because the problem is when we are clearing out heavy trauma, the way we clear it out is by allowing our nervous system to feel safe. And you might not feel very safe doing it all on your own because it's not about, being able to logic yourself out of it. If your system feels like I'm still alone, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what happens if I do this, and then still scared, you're not going to be able to get through it. That's why I always recommend if we're working on a specific traumatic event or something that's really heavy and really difficult, start working with a practitioner. And then you can go on and use it as sort of a maintenance tool and a tool in between sessions and do it by yourself.
Wow. I think I think it's just I'm very excited about natural medicines or alternative medicines as well. Um, because I know I can speak for myself. When I was on my fertility journey, I didn't ever think to look for podcasts to hear advice from other people. Um, and I didn't know that there was all of these different alternative things. I think the most alternative thing that I did was acupuncture. And I didn't even find that until I was getting ready for my fourth transfer. So at that point, things had already progressed. I'd already gone through some grief. I'd gone through different things. And this is why I love doing my podcast, because I love connecting. I love the internet. Um, because you get connected with such, amazing people. And I really just wanted this to be a tool for people to see, hope of people that have had success in the fertility world, but also just connect you with people that can help you along the process. Because I know firsthand, experiencing miscarriage, I had a very traumatic birth with my last baby. And talking about it, like you said at the beginning, it wasn't releasing the pain. It wasn't releasing some things. And I just kept pushing through and pushing through until I really decided to go on a healing journey and release this stuff. And it's amazing what your body really does hold on to that you're not aware of. And, for anyone that's on their fertility journey, I think it's amazing for them to know about these tools, whether they use them or not. Just know that they're available to them to help the process with, whatever has happened along their journey. That there's ways to relieve it. And, there is cases where they might not even be getting the support that they need from their partner. And that's not to hold judgment, that's not to say anything, but it is two people going through, a situation and high emotions. And, no one actually ever prepares you properly for a fertility journey. Like, they can give you all the science, they can give you all of like the research, but until you're actually in the thick of a fertility journey, you really don't know what to be prepared. And if anyone's like me, I went in with like this beam of hope, like, oh, this is going to work, it's going to be amazing. I had no time to hear the negative. I still heard the negative, but I was like, oh, that's not going to be me. And when it started becoming me, like my words and everything started becoming my thoughts and my feelings. And I know I held a lot of things within my body. So I think like this is such a really cool excuse me, tool for people that are on a fertility journey, or even anyone that has had a traumatic birth and passed the fertility stage. Because I know that I carried a lot of things after my last baby was born. And I know through my whole pregnancy, I really focused on gratitude. I was really, really happy, but there was a lot of contrast going on in my world. And, after having had a miscarriage and then having a pregnancy, like, you get to a certain point where you're almost freaked out and trying to numb that voice of, like, okay, I just need to get to this far. And then you get to this far, but you're still like, but what if this happens again? Like, I can't, we hold trauma, we deal with things. So, tell us more. What else would you like to share with us? I've just kind of went on a rant here, but I'm excited to have these genuine conversations.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. I think that's wonderful that what you're sharing, I think a lot of people are feeling also. And it's important to recognize that in Western medicine, we are not getting that support from our OBs, from whatever doctors are helping us on our fertility journey, or even if it is, just a pregnancy, motherhood journey, we're just not getting that support. There's not enough therapists who can help you address all of this, and there's just not enough information. And it's true, we do get left with all these thoughts, and these thoughts do become our inner voices. And that's where it becomes scary, because those inner voices then keep dragging us down and down into this horrible spiral when we can't even get out of it. I can totally relate to having a traumatic birth. I had a very traumatic birth with my first child, and it really impacted me greatly. And what I was also doing is, like, I was trying to get my story out, and I was trying to talk about it and write about it. And it helped quite a bit, but there were still pieces left. And it wasn't, I think, until I discovered EFT that I was finally able to let go of whatever sort of primal feeling that went along with it. And this is what I like about EFT and other somatic therapies. There's other somatic therapies. This is just the one that I do. But I'm a big proponent of using therapies that use our bodies in order to help us with our emotions. Because in the last 10 years or so of trauma research, we're finding out that doing a lot of this work without our body, we're just not going to get anywhere. We can't clear out the trauma. You can give people antidepressants and anti-anxiety, and that is essentially like putting a band-aid or, silencing someone. That trauma isn't going away. It's in your body. So unless you actually deal with it, you are not going to get better. And it can be really scary, I think, on a fertility journey, on a pregnancy journey, especially after a miscarriage. Absolutely. There's grief, there's fear, there's guilt. There's so many emotions that moms go through in all of this, and the dads too, as you were mentioning, like, partner might not be supportive simply because they don't know what to do, because we're not even allowed to talk about things like miscarriages. And there's just so much silence and taboo and stigma around this. Um, that yes, it is important for people to know that yes, there are safe spaces to talk about it. There are people you can come to that you can work on this with. Like, I love working with my moms on any sort of birth trauma or any trauma, and on grief, and just seeing how people can release their grief and how much their life just opens up when they release the grief, and how much better they feel is incredible. Because the truth is that when we're stressed, continuing on a fertility journey is very difficult, because we might not be getting pregnant because we're so stressed. And that's adding even more stress on top, right? So it becomes a vicious cycle. So yeah, I do highly recommend for any moms that are listening to your podcast who are looking for some help and support, that do please reach out to me. Or if there's another practitioner you find better, do please reach out, because there are ways that you can feel better. And because of that, your fertility journey can very well get much easier and be much less stressful.
Yeah, I think that you said it perfectly, because I think whether you're on a fertility journey, you're like a first-time mom, or even, a seasoned mom, um, there's a whole thing of mom guilt. And I was actually part of an article about how I released my mom guilt, but I had a lot of mom guilt, because I had this envision of what my life was going to be like when my babies came. My twins were born 2 months early. We spent 6 weeks in the hospital. That was nothing I planned for. And just different things that I had planned for or envisioned becoming a mom that didn't happen. I held guilt in things in those. And I did spend a lot of time trying to release that, because I thought, like, I want to live my life. I don't want to be in this state of constant mom guilt. Um, but I also held guilt that I couldn't get pregnant naturally. And, my husband was an absolute, he was an amazing supporter, but he did open up many times. He's like, he felt guilty that I had to go through treatments. Like, he was going through emotions, and we were really good at communicating. And that's one of the things I love to talk to my clients about, is really be open, share all the raw emotions. Don't sugarcoat anything, because you're both going through this. Whatever type of relationship you are in, you're going through this, and you do hold stresses and traumas, and all the things. And I believe in living such a beautiful life, and I didn't always live one. I lots of things have happened in the past, and I think an alternative medicine, I think an alternative routine of tapping or EFT, I think it can be so amazing for people, because every single fertility journey is so unique and so different to the person, the couple, the situation, the doctors. Everything is so different. And I'm excited for our listeners to hear this episode and understand there really is alternative ways to help relieve the stress and allow your body to release that stress, because it really does affect our nervous system. And years ago, I will have to find the book. But I didn't read the whole book because I was in an angry phase. But it really talked about how women can prevent themselves from getting pregnant. And I didn't necessarily agree with a lot of things that was in the book, but as I've become aware of like sound healing and EFT and different alternatives, I've really understood of how like our cycle and everything really impacts our body and how we hold our stress and how we hold our traumas. And no, we are not intentionally ever trying to not get pregnant, but the stresses and things that we hold within our body does affect our nervous system. We're not balanced. We're not operating at an optimal level. We're operating from a very stressed out state and adding more stressed out situations on top of it, like a fertility journey or going through either a traumatic childhood that has led you into, situations in your adulthood. And, a lot of my clients have, they've fallen under this unknown category. And I think it's the most maddening category because when you're in a fertility journey, you know, sometimes it's easier if you know it's one person or it's both people, because then you can kind of accept. And I tell all my clients, give yourself medical amnesia, forget your diagnosis. But I think it's so important that, some people need to hear like, oh, like, it's XYZ, that's why I can't. When you fall under the unknown, it just leaves so many questions going on in your head. And again, that keeps you almost in a stressed out state because you don't understand why it's not working. You don't understand why you have to be here because if, doctors are telling you that you ovulate properly, or, sperm analysis shows everything fine. Everything shows that you're fine. It's just not working. And there's no underlying health conditions or whatever the scenario is. I think it's so frustrating when you fall in that category because you want this so bad. And then, like we've talked about, it's that voice that comes into our head of, like maybe I'm not enough. Maybe I'm not meant to be a parent. Why is this happening to me? And it becomes that repetitive, like negative feedback loop that we're just stuck in of, and this would be such a wonderful tool to help people relieve that stress and know that it is not you. It is not you. And I think everyone believes that they are their body. I think everyone believes that like their body's failing them in somehow, or they did something wrong to deserve this. And it's not. Unfortunately, this is something that you're going through, but there's so many tools and techniques available to us. And I don't think we're available to like understand or necessarily open to all the things that we can do. And, I know from experience, you don't want one more thing to add to the list of, oh, well, I should try this or I should try this. Or maybe you're at the stage where you're like, I'm willing to try anything because I just want to have my baby. So I think it's amazing that you have mentioned like you can find some YouTube videos if money is very much a concern, that you can try things. I love that you do mention if you releasing grief and trauma to really do work with a practitioner. Um, Now, do some benefits at all cover EFT or no? I'm not up to date on the benefit world.
No, not at the moment. Not if you like do straight EFT. If you are fortunate enough to find a therapist that uses EFT as part of their practice, then sure, then the therapy gets covered. But EFT practitioners for now are not there, even though I think the people who are higher up are trying to fight and to try to get on the insurance panels, because some insurances cover acupuncture now, which was not something that happened before in chiropractic. So who knows when EFT might get on board there as well. But for now, no, it doesn't cover it. And I'm aware of that, and that's why I priced my packages kind of well below what you would have had to pay for a therapist out of pocket, because I am keenly aware that money sometimes stops people from pursuing treatment, and I would never want that to stop somebody from healing themselves, because I think it is incredibly important. Because that unknown category, while not for infertility, but for some other health issues, I have been in that category for many years of my life, and it is maddening when you come into a doctor and they can't tell you why. But through my EFT journey, what I'm learning is that if you're in the unknown category, chances are it is connected to your emotions. It is connected to some deep trauma, whether it's your childhood trauma, generational trauma, some other trauma that has happened that is sitting with you, that is dysregulating your nervous system and is not allowing your body to function properly. Like if you're in the unknown category, chances are it's your emotions. It is something in that realm that is keeping you from your body working the way that it's supposed to do. And I think with pregnancy, it is important to have your nervous system as regulated as possible, because if you think about it, if we're in this kind of survival situation, our body might prevent us from getting pregnant because we're not naturally meant to be get pregnant and have babies when we're in this state of like freeze or flight, when we know that it's dangerous and our body just might not do it. And our body doesn't differentiate between the danger being famine or war versus, I'm just really stressed out because I've had so much stuff happening in my life and just my system just can't handle it anymore. And that's where things like EFT or other therapies come in, is that it helps your body re-regulate and actually come into the existence that it's in now, that it's safe. But for that, it has to get rid of all that trauma, all the kind of negativity and all these things that have accumulated over the years that have dysregulated your system.
Okay, that's really good. So I guess I would have a question for you, and by all means, like answer whatever you can. So I'm assuming some women that I deal with, they have a lot of fears of alternative medicine because I do sound healing, and they very much share with me fears of, is this going to hurt my body? Is this going to hurt my baby? So if you're releasing trauma and you're going through fertility treatments, or you're gearing up for like an implantation or a procedure, how can releasing the trauma, like, is it safe? First of all, people are going to ask if it's safe, and I would say, like, I think there's a lot of fear that if they start releasing all this trauma, that it might impact their body in a negative way that won't allow them to be open for procedures or treatments, or that their body might start rejecting medicine or reject an implantation or IUI or whatever your medical procedure is that's next. So how would you combat that if someone asked you that?
Yeah, so I have not seen any single study done on EFT to say that it is unsafe for pregnant women. In fact, I like EFT as a trauma tool better than some of the other more conventional ones, like things like EMDR. If anyone's ever heard of that, a lot of therapists do it. It's with your eye movement, and it has been a therapy that therapists have been using for trauma. And that one can be kind of traumatizing when you're reliving the event, and like physically can be difficult. Although I also don't know of any studies that have said that EMDR is unsafe for pregnant women. With EFT, it's very gentle. So when we're working on the trauma, we don't even always have to talk about the trauma until the body feels safe, until the person feels safe to talk about it. We can just tap on the trauma, just general, until the body takes the charge down and the person feels ready to talk about it. And only then do we go in. So we have techniques to bring somebody out of when if they're feeling traumatized. But really, all you're doing is you're releasing your emotions. And it is not, there's nothing unsafe about it. There's nothing that will cause a miscarriage from you releasing your emotions, because you are actually re-regulating your nervous system into it functioning optimally. There are no known side effects from EFT. I mean, all you're feeling is like you're feeling your emotions. And if you are going through some deep release, right, like you could be tired, you could be headachy, you could be migrainey, you might need more rest. But that's temporary, goes away. There's absolutely no lasting effect on it. And there's no reason to think that it would prevent you from receiving the implantation for it not taking, because you're releasing trauma. I mean, you're more likely to miscarry when you're still continuing to be in that traumatic state. That's the thing, because your body feels unsafe. As long as your body's feeling unsafe, it is quite likely to reject that embryo, right? Because it is not in a place where it feels it can carry a pregnancy to term. But when you're starting to release and your body's starting to feel safe, it is actually more likely that it's going to take it up, because you are more relaxed, you are less stressed, you are able to take this in, and your body can function normally. So yeah, absolutely. You can use EFT with anything that you're doing. You can use it with your, medical treatment. If you're going to a therapist, you can use EFT as an added on boost. because you might uncover something in therapy, but you're not moving through it fast enough. EFT can move it through way faster because we're using the body. Something that might take like 15 sessions in therapy to get anywhere, we might be able to get to somewhere in 2, 3 sessions in EFT. I've had women clear their birth trauma in about 2.5 sessions, is what I would say. That at some point in session 2, we were halfway through and I was told like, oh, I'm okay. I don't feel this anymore. I can just talk about this and it's not giving me an emotional charge. You won't get that in therapy through just talking. And the reason why is because we're accessing the body directly. That's why it's so much faster. So I actually think it's a great tool for somebody who's going through infertility, or for moms in general, because that's who I work with is moms, is because it's so fast. Right? We don't have time as moms. We don't want to add one more thing that's just going to be on top of our schedule. We're already stretched so thin. I look at this as it is that 1 hour in a week that you're going to dedicate working with a professional who's going to work on your deep traumas. And then the skills you learn from that session, you can carry into your everyday. So when that voice pops up, you could just take 5 minutes in a quiet corner and tap on yourself to quiet that voice to move along with your day. And any other stress that comes up. It builds up resilience. It empowers you because it gives you a tool that only requires you in your hands to be able to help regulate during periods of stress, because we will always get dysregulated at some point. Our nervous system, even a healed nervous system, it doesn't mean it's never going to get dysregulated. We will get dysregulated. What's important is having tools to bring us back. And that's what I look at EFT as. It's a great tool that could be done pretty quickly to regulate ourselves once we have done the work on the heavy stuff.
I think that's, I'm excited. I'm excited for people to understand how we can help ourselves at home. Um, because I think it's, as we go through life, whether it's a job change, whether it's we go through a lot of changes in our life, whether it's hormonal, all the things like that's part of growing and evolving and changing, and we're ever adapting creatures. So I think it's such a beautiful tool to have, to know that you can regulate your nervous system, even if you have like stressful situations or just a stressful day at work. You can do something at home just to I know you mentioned doing surface level just to get rid of the day, and start living like a far better life. um because I know so many people are in the day to day, checking off the boxes of getting the stuff done. And I can contest to being a stay-at-home mom. I can contest to being a working mom, and just all the stresses. And not when I don't connect with my goals, or I don't connect with my desires, or I don't connect with things that light me up, it becomes very mundane. I'm just checking off the boxes, and it's okay. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and I'm not holding any judgment, because I was a very burnt out, stressed out mom for a long time, especially because I started my relationship with my husband with 3 older girls. So, well, they were little when we started our relationship, but I instantly came into ready made family, and so many things came up that I never thought of, that you start going through when you move in together, and all of a sudden you're now permanently living with your partner, and now we have 3 kids. So I went from being single to having a ready-made family. And amongst the beautiful chaos of it, there's traumas, and there's things that you hold on to that you don't realize. And I think it's so important for people to really connect and balance their nervous system. I think it's important to always feel gratitude and start living for the moment, not living for, because a lot of my clients have said, like, I know I'll be so happy when I have my baby. And I ask the hard questions like, but why can't you be happy now? And they'll give me all of the reasons why, and I totally empathize with them because I was there. I was like, okay, when I get to have my baby, then I can be happy, then I can do this, then I can do that. And it wasn't till after I started asking myself tougher questions like, why am I not being happy right now? Why am I not enjoying right now? And I know a lot of it was my nervous system was very stressed out. There was lots of things going on. Um, But I think it's so exciting and so important for people to know that there is different ways and things that they can do at home, that it's not prioritizing another outing of the house or another, you know what I mean? So I guess this leads me, do you do Zoom calls for anyone that can't come into their office?
Yeah, I mean, that is all I do. I do Zoom calls only. I don't have a physical location because as a mom, I value being able to, do stuff from my couch, right? Like I always love when I go to my therapist. We also do Zoom calls because I'm like, I don't want to go into your office. I'm sorry. I don't have the time. And I know that's the case with so many other moms. I don't want my clients worrying about childcare because a lot of my moms, they're like, well, how long is this going to take? What if my kid walks in? I'm like, that's fine. Your kid walks in, you address it, we get back to it, right? They can pop on a show for their toddler to watch or give them some snacks while they're working on this. They don't have to worry about childcare. And that is precisely why I tailored it like this. It's Zoom. We find the time that works for you. And yeah, I don't want there to be an extra step for care to be difficult. So yeah, I work on Zoom. So I work with different time zones and I have a fairly flexible schedule that if somebody's in a really different time zone that we can make it work and figure it out because I know as a mom, having free time is kind of a pipe dream for a lot of us. So yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that I feel like I just keep talking. I go on these little rants because I wish I had these things available to me or I knew about them when I was going through my fertility journeys. Um, because, like I said, no one prepares you. Some people get pregnant on the first try, and that's incredible. But what led them to get to IVF or fertility treatments, there's still usually trauma in that as well. Or, you know what I mean? Like there's just difference how everyone reacts and how everyone holds things in their body is very, very different. And, there's just a wide range of how people hold and accept grief and how they move through it. And I think it's amazing for, anyone that's on a fertility journey. I think it's anyone for any, like once you're pregnant to be able to do it. And I like that you're saying, like, you know what, they could be in their PJs and they're having a Zoom call with you because their kids are asleep or or they just had an egg retrieval and they're off work for a day or they're on bed rest for I know I had to be on bed rest my very first egg retrieval. I was on bed rest for like 3 days. It was something kind of silly. And I thought, why am I on bed rest? Like I just had an egg retrieval. Um but like those were things that I had to go through. And I think it would be so amazing knowing I could just sit there and, do certain techniques to help regulate my body and allow myself to just, move through the emotions. And, I think we don't realize the traumas and things that we hold. And, and you can trace them back to your childhood. And Gabby Bernstein talks in one of her books that I absolutely love. It's called Happy Days, but she calls the big T's and little T's. So she talks about big trauma and little trauma. And sometimes little trauma could be someone making fun of you for clothes that you wore when you were in kindergarten or grade 2, and you've held on to that for years. But we don't realize it. And I talk about blessing and releasing and connecting patterns and things like that and flipping perspectives and allowing your body to let go because I've never done EFT. I've heard of it, but I never actually like researched it too much. And that's why I think this conversation is so fun because I'm learning and my listeners get to learn. And it's just another tool that they can have to help them along the journey because I really do believe that it is a full body approach when you're on a fertility journey. I really believe in mindset. I believe so much of what we tell our mind, our body, it changes our nervous system. It changes everything that we do. But we also have to understand what has got us to this point in life. We've experienced, even as kids, we've gone through heartbreak, whether it was through parents divorcing or, just dating in general. We've experienced different things and we hold on to them. And knowing that we can regulate our body to allow our body to be in more of a natural state to allow for pregnancy and allow for fertility treatments, I think is a really beautiful way of doing it. And knowing, I have a lot of people that share with me, they want to do things themselves. And I can say I agree with a lot of that as well. Some things I used to be I used to never be able to ask for help. I had to do it myself. And I didn't have time, and I couldn't do this, and I never prioritized myself. And in my book I do talk about being a recovering people pleaser because I never prioritized myself. And I can't say that if I had EFT, I would have got pregnant on the first try, and that's not what I'm trying to say. But what I am trying to say is that if I had a way to regulate my nervous system at home, even if it was just in bed, if I was, felt embarrassed that my husband or someone might see what I'm doing, I'm a very open book. I don't get embarrassed easily. I did when I was a kid, but it's things like that I know a lot of people just want to be able to do things themselves, and that they're just like, show me and I'll do it myself, because it's just the space and the environment that they're in at that chapter of their life. So I think it's amazing that they can hop on a Zoom call with you, and you can work through grief with them, or once you teach them the tools, they can say, you know what, I'm good. I can start doing this myself. Um, I just think it's an incredible tool. So thank you so much for sharing this with me. And is there anything else that you want to add?
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited that I got to share this with your audience because, yes, I do think moms, especially moms on the fertility journey, do need all the support they can get. And I would really encourage anyone not to even view this so much as alternative medicine, because this isn't even that alternative. This is becoming very congruent with what we're learning about trauma research. Yes, the psychological community hasn't fully embraced it, and there's a lot of people who are fighting it still, but there's also a lot who have embraced it, and they're bringing it into their treatments because they know somatic therapy works, and it works better than talk therapy. And this is coming from me, somebody who is, and not only am I, an EFT coach, but I'm also a therapist myself. I have a master's in psychology. I have worked with people, and I can tell you for sure, having been in the, as a professional and having been as a client, the what I can achieve with EFT, even when I work on it on myself, and versus traditional therapy, I can't even compare. It is faster, it is more efficient, it is more effective. You can get through so much more. And that is why I do, like, I offer healing sessions. I have packages. I have a package of 4 sessions because it usually takes a few sessions to see movement. But also, if somebody really doesn't have the time, I also have just a 1-hour session where I could teach you what you need to be doing, and you can go and try it out for yourself before you decide, like, oh, maybe I came across the point that I need some support. So I do offer various things like that. And, I also offer that, like, if you have a question, feel free to email me. I would be happy to answer and help you along on this journey. And, I'm working on creating some courses and some supports as well. But yeah, I do want moms to know that there is help available for you, help that isn't going to take too much out of your day, and help that if you prioritize this, you will realize how much easier and better your life will get. Because I think what Jessica was talking about, where we don't want the help, we can't get the help, we're going to do it all on our own. I've been there too. I'm that type of a person too. I think most women are. We have all been conditioned to be people pleasers, put everybody's needs ahead of ours, or saying that we don't need help because if we need help, that means we're weak. And my goal is to express to moms that if you take care of yourself and you prioritize yourself, not only is your life going to get better, your whole family's life is going to get better. And you will, it's a gift that keeps on giving. So please do prioritize yourself. Please allow yourself this hour of, once a week of a session, or even just 1 hour with me to learn what you can do to help yourself that on the daily, because it's is going to improve your life, and it's going to improve your family's life, and everybody will be happier and better for it. And again, as Jessica was saying, we're not saying that if you do EFT or anything else, you will for sure get pregnant, because, unknown, sure, a lot of it could be emotional, could be something else, but it is worth a try to see if regulating your nervous system and giving yourself a tool to be able to deal with stress is going to help you on this fertility journey, because then your body's just going to be that much more receptive to this new life that, is amazing, but it is hard work. Our bodies have to work really hard during pregnancy.
Yeah. Thank you. I think just to add to that, I think it's so important. Even, we use the term moms a lot. So listeners, I define a mom as a person the second they open their heart to become ready for pregnancy, or if you have a blended family like I do, I instantly became a mom. No, biologically, I was not a mom at that point, but I had opened my heart. So I define women the moment they open their heart to become a mom, or, that they decide that they want to have, this in their life, you are a mom because you are already like in that nurturing state. So I wanted to just share that, and also just say, for anyone that is past their fertility journey that is just listening to this podcast, I think having these tools, even if you're on your fertility journey, and knowing about this afterwards, because after you have a baby, life doesn't just stop there. Your dream doesn't just stop there of having the baby. You now have to live your life with this beautiful little bundle of joy, or multiples if you have multiples. And I think the more resources that you have or that you become aware of, no matter what stage you are in life, no matter where you are, you can connect to this in some way. And when you regulate your nervous system, you can go through life with a far more ease and flow. Because everyone's home life is very different. Money, everything plays a factor in everything. And when you regulate your nervous system and you can allow gratitude, you can allow so many more things into your life. And it's far easier than when you're in that stressed out state and everything is happening to you. It's not happening for you. And there's just, you're in that place of just frustration, or just like, oh, why is nothing going right for me? When your nervous system is regulated, you just, you can handle some of the contrast that's thrown at you far differently. So thank you so much, Maria, for being here today. It has been such a fun conversation. And I love that you touched on that you have been in the professional world as well, and that this, from coming from the professional point of view and coming from, going into EFT and seeing how it works faster. We live in a very fast-paced world where everyone just wants things done right now. And, I encourage everyone to, whatever works best for you, take that avenue, try multiple avenues if you have to. Listen to your body, listen to what feels right. But I think it's amazing that there's different ways, because I truly, from someone that has done counseling and done things, I really felt like I was in a state of constantly reliving and trying to forgive, and then reliving and trying to forgive. And again, there is no judgment. I'm not, that was where I was in that moment when I chose it. And I do not, discriminate against therapy. I think it's great. And I think it works for some people. I really just love different things as well. Like, I love understanding my body. I love understanding how we hold things. I love learning and growing and expanding. And I think for someone that, there's always judgments in whatever field you are in life. And there is some people that don't believe in therapy. And this is a different way that they can release things as well from their body without necessarily having to talk and do certain things. So I'm excited for our listeners to hear this podcast episode. I'm excited that you were here with me today. And yeah, I feel like a kid in a candy store. The sun is shining, and I really love having these candid conversations with people and being able to share resources. So podcasters or listeners, please look at the show notes, and you can find any links that I have to Maria, so you can connect with her if you feel called to connect and learn more about EFT or check out her services. And again, Maria, thank you so, so, so much for being here with me today.
No, thank you for having me.
If you found this helpful or know anyone that needs to hear this, please share. And don't forget to leave a review and subscribe. In love and gratitude, Jessica.